Welcome to another episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and today we've got my friend Traci Harvey. She's here to share about Soul Food Cafe in Conway. We hope you enjoy. Well, Traci, thank you for taking the time to come up here and join us. I know you've got a lot on your plate, literally and figuratively. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started, where you're from, those kind of things.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Originally, I'm from Mobile, Alabama, and really love my home state. It is God's country. But
you didn't say Roll Tide.
It is Roll Tide
okay.
all the way.
I just have to throw
no
that
Auburn.
In there for a certain
No Auburn.
audience. No Auburn.
There's no Auburn. I grew up in Arkansas since I was 12. And I love Arkansas. When Roll Tide plays Razorbacks, have a little hard time, but otherwise I'm pretty good. But we started the mission. It was a dream, for sure. And when Rick and I married, I was 18, he was 21. He was already youth pastoring full-time, and we were in West Memphis. We ended up over there, West Memphis, Arkansas, and youth pastoring. And everywhere we would drive, I would just look at an empty building and say, oh man, that'd make a great soup kitchen. And he finally, after he heard it 15,000 times, then he said, what is it with you in soup kitchens? I said, I don't know. I just want to cook for people. I was 19. I didn't know anything. And not that young people don't know anything, but I didn't. And so years went on. We ended up back in my kind of home area around Conway, Arkansas, Greenbrier area. And had started attending a church with a lot of folks that we used to go to church with back when we were dating in Conway. And so that church, after years of attending there with our family, it had a split. Rick ended up as interim pastor. Wasn't really a choice that we wanted to make. It wasn't really what we wanted. We did not want to get back in full-time ministry. And so, but we were interim pastoring for about 6 months. And during that time, Rick looked at me and he said, Traci, you've got a building, you can do your soup kitchen. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're so right. And so that's kind of where it started. And the church members that were barely left there, about 6 families, ended up, they were fine with dissolving kind of that church name, not really the name, but kind of, just moving it into Soul Food Cafe Mission. And it originally started just with 1 meal a week. And God grew it into something that I never dreamed of, never did. So it was amazing. And Rick is, his calling and passion is preaching and evangelizing, but he's been working in full-time insurance for about over 25 years now. But that has been our income, paying our bills at home. And we've always been volunteers, right, with everyone else there at the mission. And we've never received a paycheck, and no one else has either. And it's what we love, and we love it.
So what did it look like going from that kind of seeing a soup kitchen everywhere to that first actually doing it?
My goodness, that was crazy. The first meal we had contacted, because we didn't know what we were doing. We contacted Main Street Mission in Russellville, and they were such good people, and they gave us Cornish hens because that's what they had. And I cooked 80 Cornish hens the first go around. And after that time, I swore I'd never cook another Cornish hen in my life, and I never have. And so we had 2 people show up that night, and I had made 80 Cornish hens, and I was like, what do I do with these now? And so I think we froze them. And ended up making something else out of them later. But it grew from 2 people. Each week it would go. The next week I think we fed 4 people. The next week it was like it just kept doubling. The next week it was 8 people. And so before long we had a room full, and we started at Brother T's place in Conway, which he served soul food, but our name didn't come from that. And so he would shut down at 7 there on Mill and Markham Street on the corner, and he would let us serve free meal after that. And people just started, after a while, in about a month, they were flooding in there. And before long, people were asking, well, do you have any food boxes? I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have any food boxes. And before long after that, we started receiving food donations for food boxes that we never even asked for. So I feel like when things like that happen, it must be God. And because it was definitely a thing he put in my heart to cook for people, but I didn't do anything to grow it. I just cooked. He did the rest. And that's how I see that when it's your purpose that he's put in your heart. Because I had to learn that the desire of your heart, that where in the word it says he'll give you the desire of your heart, it's not a pink Cadillac. It is the desire in your heart of what he's going to give you is what he put there originally. It was your purpose here on earth. And so I adore it. And it just grew. And within 3 months, it was very labor intensive. And then we moved it over to the old building, which was called Christ Church before it became Soul Food Cafe Mission. And we moved it over there, and it just started going like wild horses. We could not hold it back. And I said, Lord, we need help. And about the time Rick and I were talking about volunteers, we need them, we need help. I said, well, are we going to go to churches and try to schedule these people? And about that time, they just started showing up. We never asked anybody to show up to volunteer. And that's how I knew, again, this has to be God, because it's just more than we could ever dream, you know? So.
And just having grown up in Conway and seen soul food through the years, it was one of those things to me. It's not been all greatness over the years. It's been, and I think a lot of people look at where ministry is now, and they miss out on so much of
the tough times.
And a lot of those things they're tough. And I know that y'all have experienced a fire that destroyed your whole facility twice. But it's those kind of things that I think a lot of people, it's a benefit for them to hear, to realize that
it's hard.
It's not pink Cadillacs.
It's not.
So what was that like? I mean, y'all built up a ministry, and y'all had a very, I mean, it wasn't necessarily y'all's building, but that very large gym.
The second one,
right there. What was that like? Just seeing everything that
it's hard.
was a miracle,
right,
so to speak, go that way.
Right. And well, I go back to the first fire after 5 years of being in that small church building by the interstate. When that one happened, we got the call in the middle of the night. We were in bed. I heard it through the phone when Rick was talking to him, and I just shrieked. And I just started bawling. Sorry, it just brings me back to it. And we got there, and the fire chief was over there, and I just was standing watching it go, every bit of it go up in flames. And I'm like, and I was bawling and crying, and this fireman thought I was crazy. And I'm like, you don't understand. That's like watching my 8th baby go up in flames. We have 7 kids. So it's like, what do we do now? You know, Lord, what's going on? And so as soon as that happened, Four Winds Church, an awesome church on Dave Ward Drive in Conway, the pastor came to us. He said, we want you to do this at Four Winds. Come use the gymnasium. You have the whole thing. Just come use it. And we're like, are you serious? And we're like, kind of a little motto came out of that fire, that first fire of, it's like beauty for ashes. I mean, from the word, but that's what we felt like. And so he upped it. The Lord took us another level. And that gym was such a huge blessing, but it was huge. And it was like, oh, Father, what do we do with all this space? Well, I mean, it didn't take that long, and he was filling it up with food, with clothes, with anything you can imagine.
Bigger than what you could have ever pulled off originally. Yes.
And we did have clothes and food boxes over at the first building, but we didn't have the room, the space. And it's like, okay, Father, it's yours. You know, because my thing is, I always say, it's his baby. We are just taking care of it. We're like the babysitter, or we're like the nanny. You know, nannies get really attached to those kids because they're with them so much, but they're not their kids. It's the parents' decision of what happens with those kids. And that's how I equate the Soul Food Cafe mission is, we're just the nannies. We're just taking care of God's baby, but whatever the parent, whatever God the Father wants to do with that baby, that's his deal. Because we're just there to see to the needs and to see to what he wants us to do for his kids. And so the second fire, when that happened, it was 5 years later. And the first fire was deemed like arson, that somebody had put accelerants on a mattress. It was on the front porch, had been donated. So we really never got the full story on that till to this day. I don't know who or what did it. So at Four Winds, when that happened, again, we're in the bed, not up yet, getting ready for church, because we actually attended Four Winds as a family for 9 years. And we get there, and I'm seeing it again. I'm bawling again. I'm like, no, not again. How in the world? And, it was just, here we go again. And Lord, we got to trust you, because we got nothing. Because at that point, everything we had was in that building. And it's like, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but you're the daddy, and I'm not. So once again, church steps in, and Second Baptist over on Harkrider, and they said, come do this at our church. Come do this. And what they were trying to get going as the ministry center. And I told the pastor, I said, you don't want us. I said, we are rough on buildings. I mean, we've had 2 fires. We don't know what to do, but I don't think you want us. And he said, no, we want you. I'm like, okay. So we go there. It's been a journey. I mean, we've been in several buildings now, but now finally God has put us back in our own building as of a year and a half ago.
And that was, I'm trying to remember, when did y'all buy the land on that?
The land was given to us, and that was given to us after the first fire.
After the first fire?
Yes.
Okay.
And Gail and Margie Jones generously gave us, initially I think it was 4 acres. Later on, I think they added 2 more. So total right now we have 6 acres. And, but yeah, and after the first fire, we went ahead and we put up a fabricated warehouse building over there. I think that's what you call it. And it's that's currently what we're in. And it's a 120 by 120. So altogether it's 14,400 square feet. And so now everything is under one roof again. And we're not having to haul across town in box trucks. And it just helps a lot.
but even then, it took 23 plus years before y'all really kind of settled into that as home and were able to get the functioning bathrooms and get everything you needed for that to be.
I mean, initially the dream was at 19 years old, and as far as me wanting to cook for people. I mean, 16 years later is when it was birthed finally. I mean, that dream had to cook in my heart for a long time. It sat there for 16 years, but it never left. And that's what I think people need to know about dreams. If it's from God, it's not going to leave. It's always going to be there. So I don't believe in burnout. I believe if you're doing what God has called you to do and wants you to do on this earth, you're not going to burn out. That there's always times for rest, always times to get away a little bit, that kind of thing. But I've never had burnout. In 18 years of doing the mission, never. Parenting kids, that might bring a little burnout. But, especially 7 of them. But, the thing is that once it's a dream and it's supposed to be there and he starts it, he's going to finish it. He is the author and the finisher of our faith and the dreams. And about 2 years ago we had a hard time because we were trying to get completely moved in this new building. And we thought, well, let's go ahead and approach City Council about the Planning Commission about going ahead with our plans. It was already in the architectural plans to put in the mezzanine floor and have not a homeless, but an emergency short-term stay shelter. And so anyway, that ended up, long story short, voted no. But then they also, people wanted to keep us from even functioning as we had been normally for the first 17 years and being in our new building that we had taken so long to build just the first wing to get in. And so the Lord bless, though. We have been in since September 11 of 2018. So now we've been in the building for a full year. And about 6 months before that, we were doing just roundabout around the building, giving food boxes only, till we could get in the building. And so we finally met all of our conditions and codes and all that good stuff. And we've thoroughly enjoyed being back in our own place and not having to haul stuff. And
because when Margie and Gail gave you that, the neighborhoods around it weren't there.
Well,
Or they
some
were
were
starting to
distantly
come-
away.
right.
The ones that are right up close to us and next to us were not there. And but at that time, we could only use it as a warehouse because we didn't have the money or the
Right.
means to get the wings built. And the first wing contains like the admin, where the office is when they first check in. Then there's the kitchen. Then there's a hallway, and on that hallway, there's the haircut shop because we do free haircuts, laundry, free laundry. We provide detergent, everything. And tankless water heaters are in there. And then the 2 restrooms on the other side of that, and they each have a shower in them to where they can take showers on Tuesday. Yesterday, I had a homeless guy taking a shower. It wasn't a Tuesday, but he was there. He needed a shower. He got clothes, got his snacks in his backpack, blanket, whatever else I got him, and we got him back to come and go where he wanted to. And he was not walking through any neighborhoods, and I made sure of that. So, but yeah, we enjoy the new building. God has blessed. And
But I think that's one of the things. So many people look at you guys now and they don't realize the struggle was very,
Very
very
real.
real for you.
Very real.
Way more than I can even relate to in our journey. But I think that's one of the things that, to me, is so surreal. Once you get to a certain point, you can look back at those things.
Yeah.
Because at the moment in time when the first building built, I mean, you expressed just this great heartache that
Oh,
your
goodness.
baby is gone.
mm-hmm.
But now you look back and you say, that was a hiccup that had to happen for this next
Exactly,
thing.
exactly. And God sees the big picture and we don't. And all these puzzle pieces, they just eventually fit together beautifully the way He made it. And yeah, it definitely builds faith and builds trust in Him because, when you go through a hard time like 2 years ago with city council and all that, many times I was bawling all the way home, driving in my car, because normally Rick and I ended up in 2 cars at the end of the day to be there for that meeting. And we'd been at the mission because they were normally on Tuesday nights, and Tuesday's our day to function. And all the way home, driving home, I'm just saying, Lord, what's going on? Why? And just, and He's my daddy. I tell Him like it is. He knows what I'm thinking anyway. I may as well spill my guts. And He's just a good Father. He's a good God. And I can remember going home, and this is just being blunt, honest, and just transparent, as I crawled in a bathtub full of hot water just to relax. And I lay there and cried. I said, Father, You've brought us this far. I said, I know when You told us to start this. And I know that You're going to tell us when it stops. And it's not a success or failure thing. It never has been. It's, are you in the will of God? That is success. There is no failure in that. And so if He tells us to stop the mission today, there's no failure. Because if I know He's telling me that, and I know we're in His will, it's still success. So, and that's all that matters. And if it stopped today, then I move on to full-time Momo and Mama, and like I've always been, and I'm good. But if we go another 20 years, I'm good. So that's how I see success. That's how Rick sees it. If we're in the will of God, we're good.
But I think that's one of the things, that story and that whole concept, so much of the time when we look out there, because I remember growing up fairly privileged, and my first job in Little Rock, I'd see a homeless man, I'd walk to the other side of the street. I'm going to avoid that.
Right.
Until I got to know them, and I started to realize that the only difference between me and that homeless man, or me and that broken woman, or me and any of these people, was I got up when I got knocked down.
Right.
Because that was what God wanted me to do. It wasn't a matter of achieving something, it's just keep going.
Exactly.
And so many people never had what I had, which was family and people that were speaking that truth into me.
Right.
When they got knocked down, they stayed down.
Right.
And they've been trampled on, and they've been hurt. And what they need is an organization like Soul Food that says, come in, get clean.
Right.
Come in, let's get some food. Come
Right.
on, what can we do?
Right.
Because obedience isn't a destination, it's a process.
Right. Right. And
It's-
people a lot of times just, in order to get out of addiction, out off the street, out of any tough thing, you have to have help. It's not necessarily to enable or whatever people want to call it. The thing is that there's so many people are in addiction and homeless or whatever their state may be that don't like it. They want out. They can't get out because it's holding them by the throat, and they have to have somebody come alongside and say, here, let me help you. Then you have hope. Oh, wow, this person thinks, so you become that hope, and they see it in you. Well, okay, there's hope. Maybe I'll try this, let them help me a little bit. And the thing is not to hold their hand for the next 40 years, but they've got to have help getting out. Otherwise, I've been there. There's been so many times I could not do it for myself. Somebody had to help me. Somebody had to be that hope for a little bit that I didn't have and show me Jesus. So many times. And just like, for example, the guy yesterday, and he needed a shower. He needed snacks in his backpack. It was just, it seems so temporary, but if you provide that, then you've given hope, which can last a lot longer. And so, to me, you can't really share Jesus if their stomach is rumbling and hungry. They can't hear you. All they hear is that stomach. And if you can feed that and get that taken care of and some physical needs and start building that relationship, and they start seeing Jesus in you, and you become Jesus with skin on to that person, then they might want a piece of him, Then they might want more of him. Right. And before long, he can be Lord of their life. And because you don't just give him part of you, right. He wants it all. And then he can do big dreams with that, So
one of the things that you hit on earlier, and I just want to make sure that we kind of hit on it really strong here. You guys are not employed by the ministry.
No.
You guys don't get an income or a salary or anything from the ministry. I think a lot of people look at it, oh, well, if I could just afford to do this full time, or whatever, and then they forget that Paul was a tent maker and Jesus was a carpenter, and there was so much of this. But talk a little bit about that and that journey for you guys.
Right. Well, we were in full-time youth pastoring for 10 years. We got out. Our marriage was suffering from full-time ministry. It was suffering just from both of us. And so Rick found insurance. An uncle of his says, well, you could try it. It's you're already selling an intangible object when you are preaching to people about Jesus. So insurance is, you're selling something again, kind of correlating that. And so insurance ended up fitting him like a glove. And he's a great salesman. He's a great preacher. And so he's done that now for over 25 years. And it has been hard because I was homeschooling 7 kids full-time. We had started the mission. At that time, we had 6 kids. Our 7th is actually younger than the mission, is what I always say. So I tell her, you're actually number 8. But anyway, no, just teasing Jancy. But balancing that, it wasn't easy. But the Lord made it possible. My mama used to always tell me, nothing in life worth having is going to be easy. Anything worth having, you work hard for. And so I guess, through her teaching me toughness, and Rick and I both, we kind of describe each other as bulldogs. We don't give up. We persevere, but what? God had to put that in us to do the task that he has. And so Rick he worked full-time insurance. He's always been his own secretary, own salesman, own everything, own manager, whatever it was. I was teaching 7 kids, homeschooling, doing the best I could, and we were doing the mission just one day a week. Well, as it got bigger and bigger and bigger, God sent volunteers, thankfully. We have the best volunteers. We will tell you that any day of the week. And I know probably every organization feels that way, but we do too. And but it took other people for God to bring others, because like today, Rick is teaching insurance. I'm here doing this. And at the warehouse right now, there's probably about there's 2 ladies doing backpacks for schools today, about 86, 87 backpacks that we do for 4 schools in the area. There's about 6 or so in the warehouse sorting through the food that's coming in right now. And there's guys out picking it up right now. So God has made it work. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it except He has provided for His own thing, because it's His 100%. And, any day that Rick and I start feeling like or acting like that we're running the show or it's ours, I mean, we check each other. Because, if I start, but da-da-da-da-da-da, and how are we going to da-da-da-da-da, and Rick will remind me, is it ours? Well, no, you're right. Never mind. God's will, God's bill. He takes care of it. He pays for everything. He brings the money in. He takes care of the bills. And we've always depended on Him all the way. And 2 years ago was a big test for us with city council and all that. And we both would get caught up every once in a while. And, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Are we even going to get in our building? And I had to remind him. He had to remind me. If God be for us, who can be against us? We are the head and not the tail. And God is in charge here. We're not the boss. We are employees, and we do what He says, and we are His kids, and He is our daddy, and He's just going to have to work it out. And so it's been a big balance of kids and grandkids now, and we're up to 8 grandkids, having a 9th one in March, and so it's a lot to balance. We've got grandkids that are playing sports and being in bands and choirs, and we're going to those events, and we're going to kids. Jancy, she plays everything in the book of homeschooling, from volleyball to basketball to whatever she can find. She clogs. We go to all those events and run the mission. And we both have aging parents that are 3 left. My mom and Rick's mom and dad, they help us at the mission. My mom just bought a bunch of socks to go in backpacks because she felt like God said go buy socks. I said, okay, let's go buy socks. So those are going in backpacks today. I've given out 6 pair already to homeless folks that she bought. And I just think that's exciting. How not only did He tell us to do it, but He's incorporated our family into it, and friends, and churches, and colleges, and businesses. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. And we've never lifted a finger to go after any of it. He's just brought it. And I'm like, He knows what He's doing.
He does.
He really does.
Well, thank you so much for just taking
Drew,
the time to be here and
I'm
to share
honored
your
to be
story.
Here. Thank you.
Because, like I said, growing up in Conway, it was always one of those things. I mean, Rick was always thought of as that crazy guy that he's just not giving up. Just from what
exactly.
my experience in seeing, and then you run across Gail and Margie, who were crazy in their own right, who believed in it.
Exactly.
And so it's just something that means a lot to me, being from Conway. And thank you so much for just being willing to be obedient and step in.
We love it.
So
it's our 8th child. We love it. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. Traci's story about just one crisis after another, but how God intends something for greatness. No matter what you've gone through, it's about the future. We hope you jump out there, chase your God-given dream, and are inspired by her story.